Today is looks like week 4 of my series on interval training. This is going to be the last week we're talking about interval training, so it's kind of a wrap up. And quite frankly, my favorite topic within interval training is the health benefits you get from having any regular exercise program, including but not limited to doing interval training. So let's kind of I'm going to present for about 15 minutes, and then I would love to answer questions if you have them. And if you don't, per usual, please send me a note, email, or call me, or come visit me, see me in the clinic, or connect with me on maybe a telemedicine visit so we can help dial this in for you, because there's a lot of personalization about this topic that really requires some refinement, some trial and error. You want to get out there and get on the field, so to speak, and see what's working, and then refine it with somebody. So I've been using interval training for a number of years to help people achieve their health benefits. So a quick recap: interval training stands for, or HIIT stands for high intensity interval training, and that's where you're working for periods of intense, strenuous, little short periods of time, followed by rest. And they're usually cardiovascular based. Some can be strength workouts, and you're expected to go pretty hard during those work intervals, and your heart rate starts to ramp up as you complete a few rounds of the intervals. And you'll find that if you're going all out, and going all out for you, not going all out for what you might see on a YouTube video or a coach you're following or somebody you're trying to do, it's all out for you, you'll find that you're huffing and puffing and you can't have a good conversation, or you can't speak. And that's how you know you've achieved max effort here with interval training. And that's what we want to shoot for. That's a goal. You don't want to start there necessarily. So that's interval training. Usually a session takes 20 minutes, could be a little longer, could be a little shorter. You want to make sure you're feeling good, you're injury free, you're not going to hurt yourself. You want to be warmed up, well rested. You want to complete your interval training sessions with, feeding and rehydrating, fuel, food, rest, sleep, recovery. There's a whole well-rounded aspect to this, but that's the basic premise we're working off of. Is we want to optimize our health using interval training. So 2 to 3 days a week is probably perfect. If you're just beginning, 1 or 2 days. If you're advanced, 2 to 3 days. You don't need to do more. You need to have more aspects of exercise to complete your well-rounded program. So today we're going to be talking about the health benefits of doing this. I am going to highlight 4 benefits. One is the afterburn effect, or EPOC. The other one is mitochondria and basically cellular health. There's blood sugar, and then there's fat loss. And I'm cherry picking here. These are my favorite things. There's other benefits that I'm not covering, so not comprehensive, but pretty well rounded. So this hopefully convinces you to try it. So at the end of this, I'll give you the strategy again, and answer questions. So let's talk about your post. So excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. So after you finish an intense bout of activity, it doesn't have to be interval training. It could be any exercise. It could be strenuous weightlifting. It could be a long run. It could be a swim. Your body has to recover, and that recovery requires energy. And so when you finish a workout, your body has to repair itself, fix little micro tears in the muscles to make those stronger. But specifically, we're dealing with oxygen here. And so when you have an interval training session and you're really huffing and puffing, you're blowing out lots of CO2, and you're trying to suck in oxygen, there's a depletion that happens. And that depletion basically takes time to refill. So you basically use up all your O2, a lot of it, and then your body spends time after the session to repair that depleted oxygen back to the cells. And so the cool thing about that is you burn energy in order to do that. So it's a really nice way to put a short, intense workout, and maybe your caloric burn isn't as much as like a long run totally, but it's a shorter workout and then you burn calories after. And the studies have been done, and it's somewhat controversial, at least in my mind. And I think you can bank on about 15 to 25% of your calories burned doing interval training can be about 15 to 25% of that can be added to your total caloric count. And a lot of people are exercising and counting their calories, which is fine. And so if you kind of estimate you burn 300 calories during an interval session, maybe you can tack on an extra 50. And that's not nothing. So that's good. So you kind of have an increased metabolic effect from doing interval training. And that's called EPOC, or excess post-exercise consumption, oxygen consumption. So it's a nice benefit. You don't want to exercise for burning calories, but it's definitely something to track. It's definitely a biomarker that I like to track. So on a real world level, you can do short intervals and get, so the ratio is about 4 minutes of high intensity interval training equals about 20 minutes of steady state cardio in terms of the afterburn effect. And so that's a little ratio that you can kind of figure. So if you're a kind of a longer, slower, steady state cardio person, and you want to transition or you want to experiment with interval training, that's a good ratio to try and match if you're trying to keep your routines somewhat similar so you can stay on your health goals and trajectory. All right. So the next benefit is the benefit to your mitochondria. And the cool thing about the mitochondria and your cells in general is the cells in your body are just kind of little factories producing all kinds of proteins and energy, and it's like a little universe inside the cell. It's fascinating. It's amazing. The biochemistry of our cells is unbelievably complicated, and it mimics kind of what we have as a human body. So on a cellular level, you can age. On a cellular level, you can have mutations. On a cellular level, you can have toxicity. And on a cellular level, you can have health challenges. They may not show up on a macro level. Like if you have a couple cells in your liver that aren't functioning correctly, maybe your liver enzymes are going to come back normal on a panel. But over time, if you have a lot of cellular dysfunction in your liver, you'll have issues with the organ, and then with the organ and the body. So on a small level, you can improve your health if you focus on the cellular level. And the cool thing is you don't even have to be a scientist or do anything fancy. You just have to do interval training and you can improve your cellular function on a couple ways. So one is mitochondria. So mitochondria basically produce energy, ATP. They help take the food you eat and convert it to energy. So that's what the mitochondria do. They're throughout the body, they're in muscles, they're throughout the entire body. And so we need them to produce energy, and you can improve the health of those mitochondria by doing interval training. A lot of studies have been done, and probably the last decade, there's been several big studies that have been published. And every time they get published, the media usually it shows up in the media. So if you do a search, you'll find kind of popular media talking about the mitochondria and interval training. It's got some negative press for sure. If you can damage your mitochondria if you overtrain. So you got to find the sweet spot. But basically, interval training leads to better energy production, and you have more mitochondria in total, and your mitochondria that you have will be better functioning to produce energy. And the cool thing about it is there's a study that was done 2017 in the Journal of Cell Metabolism that showed the older you are, the better your benefits are of doing interval training for your mitochondria. So if you're in like a group, let's say 30 to 50s, they showed increase when they looked at the mitochondria under microscopes and stuff, because they did biopsies of the muscles. And if the older you are, the bigger your benefit was. So that's so cool. If you are looking for a reason to do this type of work, and you're a science-based person and you are interested in mitochondria or ribosomes or things that produce proteins, things that produce energy in your body, if you do interval training, it's going to improve all those functions and stuff. So fantastic. We love it. A lot of good science on that. The other thing is blood sugar. So this is number 3. The third most important physiological wellness benefit of doing interval training to me is blood sugar. And having blood sugar dysregulation is such a plague on our Western cultures. We have messed up blood sugars, and a lot of us are on the blood sugar roller coaster, and that may not show up clinically in your labs, but it may show up on a regular basis where you just feel bad. So if you have lunch and then a couple hours later you feel totally wiped out, your brain's not functioning, you might be on a blood sugar roller coaster where you have this surge of carbohydrate coming into the system, and then your body kind of tries to regulate that, maybe does a little bit too good of a job, and then you go hypoglycemic, and so you then you need to eat, and so you're kind of on this continual roller coaster. Well, what they found is interval training can help regulate that. Again, a lot of studies done. Quick PubMed search will reveal a lot of interval training and blood sugar benefits, and so they're out there. And basically, let's see. So if you so I love this one. So I'm looking at my notes here, but there is a study. I love it because it's so effective. So 1 minute bouts of cycling with 1 minute breaks, and then for 10 cycles. So 10-minute bouts of cycling improved participants' 24-hour glucose levels. It like brought it down a lot. So with such a small effort, you can really improve your blood sugar. So so blood sugar is a great benefit. We're definitely at a point in our culture that you want to take that seriously. Even if you don't have elevated A1C or your glucose on your labs looks pretty good, you want to prevent it. So you can do it with interval training. And then the last benefit is fat loss. And I have to bring this up because, I mean, let's be honest, most people are doing exercise in a consistent way, mostly for this reason. So look at your New Year's resolution. A lot of times it's exercise, and then you have a fat loss or a weight loss goal associated with that. So one of the main reasons why interval training is so popular is there are good studies that show you will lose weight doing interval training. The cool thing about interval training, and let's say in a 20-minute span versus like a 45 to an hour long run, is the studies to me represent similar effect. So the longer steady state cardio people and the interval training people typically lose about the same amount of weight in a given period of time. But for me, it's quicker. It's more time efficient. You can get your work done to achieve your health goals in a much shorter period of time, like a third of the time, maybe even less. And so there's a lot of good studies out there that demonstrate fat loss and interval training. What can you expect? Well, if the less trained you are, the quicker your results will be. That's for sure. If you're doing interval training, you'll notice that you start losing weight quickly. If you're highly trained or you're more like conditioned and you don't have a lot of weight that you want to try and lose, let's say, you might notice less of an effect. But I did a quick kind of peruse of what participants in these studies actually lost, and basically you can come up with about 17% reduction in visceral fat. There's several studies that show that. That's huge. So the fat around your organs, 70% loss in like 12-week programs. People typically on these interval training research studies lose about 4 to 5 pounds in 12 weeks, and that's without dietary changes. So that's a pretty good thing. I don't recommend people go on a weight loss journey without making dietary changes, of course. But if you didn't change your diet and you just did like a 12-week interval training program, you can expect to lose about 5 pounds. That's fantastic. Maybe a little bit more if you have more to lose, maybe less if you have less to lose, but that's pretty good. That to me, that's realistic. And if you had dietary changes and maybe some worked on your hormones or tried to regulate your blood sugar along with that, you might notice even a greater jump. That's my opinion, especially working with people in the clinic. So to recap, the top 4 benefits of interval training for your health are This exercise consumption thing where your body burns oxygen and has to replenish it over a period of time. So you burn calories, your metabolism is elevated. You repair your cellular function, so your mitochondria, your ribosomes, and basically you can think of that as stopping aging at the cellular level. And the analogy I used was, if you have a couple liver cells that are off, a fatty liver that doesn't make, but over time you can develop issues with your liver if you have a lot of liver cells that are malfunctioning. And so not just the liver, but your whole body, you can improve cellular function at all aspects of your body. Blood sugar, interval training has been shown to regulate blood sugar and bring people out of the hyperglycemic state and give you a sustained blood sugar effect because your muscles are using glucose to function. And then fat loss, probably the most popular benefit. It's a little controversial, but I would say without much dietary changes, you can expect to lose 1.5 pounds a month doing interval training. So what does that look like? How many days a week should you be doing interval training? Like I said, 2 to 3 20-minute sessions, a little bit less if you're a beginner, a little bit maybe more if you are advanced, but that's where you should be. You can do, my favorite activity for interval training is on a bike, and it's all about speed, not resistance. So if you have access to a spin bike or you purchase one, 20-minute session, quick, fast bouts of work followed by a moderate kind of cycling pace. Treadmills work, but harder to recover. So if you're doing a treadmill interval like training program, I would say 1 to 2 days a week max. You can do it with walking, so brisk walking followed by just kind of a normal moderate pace. You can use your body weight, so there's lots of body weight exercises that you can use to do interval training. Burpees, mountain climbers, jumping jacks, running in place, the list goes on and on. But you want to be going fast here. So this is a cardiovascular work, not necessarily strength training. 20 to 40 second bouts of work. Olympic level athletes can only go full out for like 45 seconds, maybe a little bit longer. So I'm nowhere near that. So 20 to 40 seconds of work followed by 20 to 40 seconds of rest. You kind of come up with those ratios. If you're a beginner, you want to do less work, more rest. If you're right in the intermediate, 1-to-1 ratios are good. So like 20-20, 40-40. And then if you're advanced and you want to get the most bang for your buck, you would want to do a 2-to-1 ratio of work to rest. So maybe work 40 seconds and rest for 20, or vice versa if you're a beginner. So that's like 25 to 35 exercise sessions over the course of 3 months. And then you reevaluate, you look at your goals and you decide, are you reaching your goals? Do you need help? Do you need to switch it up? And that's a good way to go about it. So 3-month increments of this training program will definitely give you health benefits. So what else? 1 to 2 days a week of strength training. You want to focus all your major muscle groups, legs, chest, back. Try and get a good session in on all those 1 to 2 days a week. You want to be stretching, you want to work on your balance and coordination. And then probably most important is you want to rest, you want to sleep, you want to recover, you want to hydrate, and you don't want to push your body into a place where you're getting injured doing this stuff. So that's my talk for today. Any questions? No matter what your background is, and you can find some ways to do interval training that can be helpful. So good luck. And yeah, thanks. All right. Well, thanks for joining. Thanks for participating. Have a good day, everybody.